Welcome guys to our part 2 of our tutorial in which I'll be showing you how to integrate SAP Business One with web application, in our case Laravel application. So what we did on our previous video is we did a fresh installation of Portal, and we did some configurations and setups, in which case we added a table that is going to contain our items from SAP. So on this tutorial, we'll be focusing on our ASP web service, which we also installed. Here it is, and we edited some few details as well, in which case we are going to now be adding the CRUD operations, that is the create, update, uh, and delete. But we won't do delete in this tutorial. What we'll do instead of that is we will update the product to be inactive. So for purposes of this demo, what we'll do is we're going to use a tool called Postman. So if you don't know what Postman does, is a tool that enables you to test your APIs. So you're able to test the data formats you are sending, the responses you're getting before you actually publish it, or you actually use it for other third-party integrations. So this is Postman. If you do not have it, you can download it for free from their website. Yes, so without wasting time, let's go straight to our web API. All right, so this is a fresh installation. What we want to do is to delete the values controller. We don't need that. I'll go ahead and delete it. All right, then we are going to create a new controller. We are going to call it SAP controller. So this is what is going to contain all our methods, the get methods, the create items methods, and everything else. So this will contain the logic of our API. So what you also want to do is to create our utilities folder. All right, you can just call it utils. So what this is going to do is it's going to carry all the classes that you're going to be needing, classes that for one reason or another will be used in more than one method on our controller. So this will actually contain our SAP connector. So we are going to create a class here and add methods that are going to be initializing the connection to SAP using the DI API. So before we continue, there is a file we want to reference. We want to reference SAP DI API file. So that is what you're going to use. So under COM object, if you have already installed SAP Business One, you will be having all these components installed. So what you want to do is to select the DAPI. So mine is version 9.0, but if you're using SAP version 10, that is PL1, 2, 3, going forward, then your version will be version 10. Also, if you're using SAP version 9.3 from PL12, you'll also be having an updated version of the DAPI. So I'm going to be using 9.0. All right. And if for one reason or another you do not have it under the COM object, what you're going to do is you can manually reference it. So you're going to go to browse. Then you are going to go to where your SAP folder is. In that case, in the program files 86, right? Then under DAPI, then under DAPI 90, and then you want to reference this file called SAP Bobscom 90 DLL. So that's the library we are going to use, but for mine, I'm just going to reference it from the COM objects. So All right, so this might take a few minutes depending on the processing power of your machine. All right, so you want to make sure this file is here under the references. Okay, so once we have that there, the next thing we want to do is to create our connector. So we want to create a class which we are going to call SAP connection. So anytime we will be needing to create a connection to the DIPI, we will basically be creating an instance of this class, then be calling the methods that you're going to now be creating here that are going to actually return the company. Okay, so what you want to do here is to create the methods that you'll be calling. The first one is open connection method that is going to be returning the company we are connecting to using the DI So it's going to be a public method that is going to return SAP bobcoms.company. All right, it's going to be called open connection. Right. Okay, so once we have that, we want to create an instance of the company we want to return. So in that case, we are going to you can just copy these, and we're going to call it all company. Okay, we're going to call it all company. And now we'll be able to access all the properties that are under all company. So that's what we want to do. So the first thing we want to do is to specify the server. In my case, I'm using SQL Server. So I just want to put the server name here. All right. If you're using HANA, you have to do the same. So then the next thing you want to do is to specify the company database we are going to use. Company dot company db. All right. So in my case, I'm going to be using the SBO demo BE for this demonstration. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is to specify the server type. So here you can be using HANA, you can be using SQL 2012, so that you have to indicate. All right. Okay. Data server types. All right. So I'm using 2016, so that's what I want to indicate. I'm using my Microsoft SQL 2016. So then after that, you want to create the login details to the database. So that is going to be the DB username and the DB password. So in my case, I'm just using SA password. Okay. So then you want to also specify the user we are going to be using on SAP. So this user must be having a professional license. So I'm going to use manager. Then set the password for manager. Okay. All right. So I also want to, this is not a must, but you can say you want to use a trusted connection. Okay. So that you're going to put to true. All right. You're also going to specify the language we want to use. Okay. BO plans. All right. We want to use English. All right, so once we have these, we can now go ahead and create the connection or start the connection. So we are going to do O company dot connect. We're going to call the connect method, right? Then we want to return our connection instance. Okay, so that is done. That's how you create a connection to the DI API. In this case, to our SAP Business One. Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to do is to create the methods that and the functions you are now going to use to be able to save and to be able to retrieve the information from SAP. So that is going to be under SAP controller. So you're going to delete all these. Okay, I'll just remove one. Okay. All right, so we are going to create a public function, public. It's going to be of type HTTP response message. Just thinking of the best method we can. Okay, we are going to use the IHTTP HTTP action result. All right, I think this will work for us. To add HTTP. Okay, that's fine. Then I'm going to call it create item. Right? Okay. So then before that, you must indicate that it is a post. It's going to use the post method. Then you also indicate the route. So in this case, the route is going to be our endpoint. You're going to see that in a moment. So here we can just put API stroke create item. All right, cool. So once we have these, something, okay. So what you also want to do is to create a private class that is going to hold the data that will be coming in from the third-party application, so that this method will be saving it. So we can do that here. I'm just going to do private class, and we are going to call it item details. Okay, right. Right, this is supposed to be inside our main class. All right, awesome. So this we want to create some properties. The first one is going to be our item name, which is going to be of type string. So we'll just do public string item name. Then we want to get and set. Right, so we'll do this for some few other details. We want the item name. Can put the okay, the description is the same. We can just put item code, and the base price. Okay, so for now I think this is enough. All right. Okay, so this we are going to include it as a parameter. We're going to create an instance of this class. So this will contain the data that will be coming from the third-party application. In our case, the Laravel application. So it's going to be coming with these items, which are going to be received here, and then this method is going to save to SAP. So up to there, now we are going to continue to the saving part to SAP. So what you want to do is first of all to create an instance to initialize. Guys, we just comment here connection to SAP. So that you're going to do by creating an instance of our class here, the SAP connection. So I will just do SAP connection, SAP connection. Going to, all right. So then we can create a connection. Okay. All right. So then using these, we now create the actual SAP connection instance, which is going to be .company. Company. Just call it or company as well, or just company is equals to our connection dot open connection. All right. Awesome. So that this is going now to contain the connection object to DI API. So from here, we also want to create our items variable. We're just going to do SAP webscoms dot items. Want to create items. These I'm going to call items. It's an items object, right? Then we want now to start feeding in the information, but before that you want to make sure that we add this connection to get the object, get the business object. All right, so in our case you're going to do the BO objects, then you're going to do the items or items. This is what we want to use. All right, so once we have that, we can now start saving the information. So the first thing you want to do is to put the item code. All right, so the item code should be what you have received. All right, then we also want to, let me just duplicate this. You also want to put in the item name. All right, okay, so what you also want to put in is the base price. All right, that is not there. So these two should be enough for now. We can start doing the test. So now what you want to do is to create a variable that you're going to use to check whether actually our saving was successful or not. So I'm going to call it status. Then it's going to be equated to all items dot add. Okay. So that's supposed to add these details and create that object. Okay, so we are going to add more properties, but you just want to check whether the connection, first of all, is successful and whether we are able to, save the item. So then we want to check whether saving was successful or not. So for that, we are going to create another class here and call it, we're going to call it response. Okay, it's just going to have two properties. The first one is going to be the response code, which you're going to define. All right, so this is going to be, just finish creating it. Okay, then the other one is going to be the description. So whether there is an error or a success message is going to come in as the description. So we have an error here. Okay, let me just add these new. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay. All right, so we are going to create an instance of this class here. All right, then that's what you want to populate. So to check whether the saving was successful, we are going to check whether our status here is equals to 0. If it is, the saving was successful. If it wasn't, then there was a problem with the saving. So if it was successful, we want to add the description, the response description as saving is right. Then you can also put in the response code should be equal to 00. So when we get a 00 by default, we'll know that the saving was successful. So then we want to put an else. So an else, this means that there was a problem saving to SAP, and in which case we also want to get what really was the exact problem doing the saving. So here we are going to do call response dot response code. This you're going to use 99 call okay dot description. So SAP provides a way in which we can be able to know what happened during the saving. So in which case you are going to use this company here. Okay, then we get the last error description. Okay, so I'm just going to turn to string. All right. There's an issue here. It is not valid in context. Just trying to figure out what might be the problem here. Okay, so my mistake. This is supposed to be a method, all right? Okay, so we are good. So the last thing we want to do is this method, you must have a return. That's why we have an error here. So we must return our response object. So we want to do that right now. I want to return the call. Okay. All right. There's a problem also here. Let me see. Okay. All right, that is successful. Then run it. Okay. So the beauty of using ASP Web API is that it does the documentation for you. So once you come to API here, all right, you should be able to see all the endpoints you have. So in this case, you have API create item, and it also gives you a sample of the data that is expected to be passed and in which format. So if it's in JSON, this is what we are required to pass. If it's in XML, this is what we are required to. Okay, so what you want to do is now to create a post request, in which case we are going to create a new tab here. We want to do post. Then we are going to copy this URL up to here. Okay. Then copy the endpoint. All right. Then body, we come to row and specify we want to use JSON. So in that case, we are just going to copy this and paste it here. All right. So now we want to create our item. I'm just going to call it test item. Then this I'm going to put T0012, and this we are not using, but I'll just put 20. Okay. So when you send, all right, you get a response. So this description is an error from SAP that is telling us that this item you're trying to create has already been created in SAP Business One, and the response code is 99 as we had specified here. All right. So I'm going to log into SAP to check the item. Okay. So I'm going to copy this item code and go to inventory, item master, and search. Yes, we have a test item already created. So what I want to do is to change this maybe to test item 2, then put here 13. So this should be successful. Okay, so we have created that item which is successful. So let me just go to the last inserted. All right, I can't find it that way, so let me just search it. Okay, so that is how basically you create an item using the DIPI to SAP Business One. So what we are doing here with Postman is exactly what now our Laravel application will be doing. It will be making a request to this URL, and it will be passing this data as the body, this JSON data as the body, and then our web API will be creating that information in SAP. So with that, I think we are done with the create function. So what I want to now do is to do a method that is going to return all the items from SAP. All right. So I'm going to stop this. Okay, so I want to create a region here first. Regions. Okay, that's fine. All right. So just to explain how we are going to fetch all the items from SAP is if you are using SQL, then you are allowed to use ODBC connection to be able to query the information. You can also use an SAP object called record set to also retrieve that information. And if you're using HANA, HANA has HANA drivers which you can use the same way you use SQL connection drivers. So you can be able to also use HANA connection drivers to do that. But because I'm using SQL, what I want to do is to use ODBC to be able to retrieve that information and then put it in JSON format and return that information. So that's what I want to do. All right. So the first thing is to create the method that is going to return that information. And even before that, I think we can just go ahead and create the method type, which is going to be get. So it's going to put HTTP get. Then we're going to create the root. All right. Which is going to be API stroke. We can just say get items. Okay. Uh, check something here. Okay. All right. So once we have that, we want to create a HTTP response message type. This will be our return type. So HTTP response message get items. Right. So this being get, we do not expect to pass any information. So I'm going to use that. Okay. All right. So the first thing you want to do is to create a data set. So you want to do data set. Create an instance for a data set. It's going to put ds is equals new data set. And I want to include the data there. Okay. All right. So we also want to create um, a data table for the items. Just call that items data. All right. And we also want to create an ODBC command. Okay. This is just the normal way you can do a query to the database. Okay. All right. Then now here we are going to just say using ODBC create the connection on equals new DBC connection. It's going to be right like that. Then here you want to pass in the connection parameter. I'm going to we first do the driver we are using is SQL server. Okay, then separate that with the semicolon. Then we add the server. The server we're using is FC semicolon. Then we do the database. Okay, so we are using the SBO demo database. So I'll just copy that from here. Okay, and semicolon. Then now what you want to do is to pass our ID and our password. So you're going to put user ID, we are using SA, then put our pass, which is pass at 123. All right. So is can add that there so that it ignores special characters. So after this, the next thing you want to do is to create our query. So our query is just going to be all select all items. Select all. Okay. From want to use table OITM. Okay. So this is the table that contains all our products or items. But I don't think we want to select everything. Maybe the item name, item code, uh, Okay, for now we can use this, but you're going to check whether there are some other fields that we can use. All right, so now we are also going to use a command. We're going to create a new instance there, then pass our string, our query string as a parameter and our connection. All right, then we also want to create an instance of ODBC data adapter. It's going to be DA is equals new. All right, so then pass our command there. Yeah, then we want to fill our data set uh, with the data that we have just queried. So we're going to put that there. Then we're going to use items there, right? Yeah, and with that we are done. We don't need this for now, the data table. With that we are done. So what we now want to do is to return this information that we have queried. So there is a type that we must use. Let's create a response. Then we pass in our status called HTTP status. Okay, let me just type it in full HTTP status code, right, which is going to be okay, meaning 200. Then now I pass our data set. Yeah, basically with that, we should be able to get all the items from SAP in a JSON format. Let's see. Going to rebuild the solution. So if you have any question about this, be sure to drop a comment and I'll be able to respond and probably give you a solution. Okay. All right. Also be sure to subscribe for more of these tutorials. Right. So we are going to start it. All right. So now when you go to API, you should be able to also see the other method you have added that get uh, get items, and it gives you the method type. So in this case, this is a get. So what you want to do is to copy these. I'm going to create duplicate these, then paste that here. But these you want to change to get, and we don't need these. Okay. All right. So let's see what happens. All right, looks like we have an error. So invalid connection string attribute. So basically this means that we are not able to log in uh, to the server, to the SQL server. So there must be something that is wrong with our connection. All right. So, and I'm going to also be doing a tutorial on how you can be able to log, in which case it's always advisable to use try catch, because you know, when you build the solution and it has these problems, most of the times it crashes. So I'm going to be showing you how to use try and catch, then create a logging class that is going to be outputting txt files with the errors that the application has. So I'm just going to check what might be the problem here. Okay, I see what the problem is. we do not use pass, so we have to use p. Sorry about that. What's this? We have to use pwd. All right, so let's run it again. For password, okay, so let's do that again. Yes, and now we have all the items from the database. And as you can see, it is in JSON format. This is what you want. All right. Okay. So this name here, items, is what we have specified here. If we change this, then it's going to change this as well. So yeah, basically that's how you are able to fetch all the products from SAP. You can use SQL connection as well, all the HANA drivers to be able to do that in case you're using HANA DB. And I'll also be doing a tutorial on HANA as well. So that is that. So we have done one for get items and one for create items. So what you want to do is now to do the update items. All right, so we have done one for getting the items and another method for creating the items. So now what you want to do is to create the update items. So this is very similar to the create items, only that you have to change some few things and get the item first before we do the update. So I'm just going to copy these. I don't want to begin from scratch. Then I'm going to edit the endpoint to update item and the function name as well. Okay. So still we are going to be receiving the data in as this object. So then the connection is still going to be the same. All right. Only that here now what you want to do is to first get object before we proceed to do this. So what you want to do is to get the item that we are editing. I'm just going to use if. Okay. Um, okay. If then I'm going to put in the item here or items here. Then get by key. All right. And then I'm going to pass here the item code. So we want to get this item from SAP database using the item code. All right. Okay. So then all these should be inside here. Okay. Yes, so what this does is first of all it checks whether there is an item. If there is an item with that item code, now it comes and updates these fields. And now instead of add, we are going to just edit these to be update. All right. Okay, so then this still remains the same. Then we need to copy these here. So we are going to change this to error 90 and the description is going to be item not found in SAP. Just that. So we are able to edit the item code and also the item name. So, all right. So I think with that we complete the web API part of this tutorial. So the third and the last part will be now integrating it to our Laravel application so that it will be able to call these methods, endpoints, the create items, the update item, and also the get items and display it in the table that we had created. So thank you for being part of this up to where we are. And be like to share, comment, and subscribe. See you on the last part. Cheers.